Good morning. Today I am reading from the sixth book of the Left Behind series, and the name of that book is Assassins. Today I'll be reading chapter 13, and I'll begin to read now. Rayford grabbed the bag of cash and trotted up the tower stairs at Palwaukee Airport. Having seen two cars in the lot, he knew T had kept Bo Hanson from fleeing. Rayford's knee protested a few steps from the top, and he limped to the door. He had been in the tower many times and knew anyone there had heard his own footfall. T waved him in from behind the desk, and Bo looked up from a side chair as if just realizing someone was coming in. Rayford had found Bo none too bright, despite his privileged upbringing. His bleached crew cut was caked in place, and he took a deep breath, Rayford assumed to showcase his muscular physique. The pose didn't mask his fear. "It's been a while, Bo." He nodded. "Mr. Steele's." "Steele." "Sorry." "What you been up to, Bo?" "Oh, nothing much. What about you?" "Lost a dear friend recently. Two, matter of fact." Rayford setting the bag at his feet. "Two," Bo said. "One was my doctor. You met him." "Yeah, what happened?" "Something he caught from Hattie." "Oh, I heard about her. Bad news." "What'd you hear?" "It was all over the news," Bo said. "Plane crash. Spain, I think. I lost somebody too. Ernie got burned up the other day in California." "I'm sorry to hear that." "Thanks. Sorry about Hattie, too." "How much did she pay you, Bo?" Rayford said. "Pay me? To fly her out of here, concoct a story, fake her death." "I don't know what you're talking about." "You approved the flight. Your initials are on the log. You didn't think to alter the plane's identification, so even the pilot never reported it. His plane was traced to your brother Sam in Baton Rouge." I still don't know what you're talking about." "You fancy yourself a businessman, Bo." Bo looked at T. "I own part of this airport." "I do, all right." 5%, T clarified. Bo looked stricken. "I have other holdings, other interests, other concerns." "Wow," Rayford said. "Impressive words. Any of those other things have names?" "Yeah," Bo said. "One of 'em's named none of your—" Rayford got T a look and turned back to Bo, whose chest was heaving, his pulse visible at the neck. "I'll bite, Bo. None of your—" "Yeah, it's my business. It's called none of your business. Get it? Ha, none of your business." "Got it, Bo. Good one. So you need payoffs from young women who want to disappear?" "I told you I don't know what you're talking about." "Yet you haven't denied it." "Denied what?" "That you put Hattie Durham on your brother's Quantum and got her flown out of here." "I deny that." "You do." "I absolutely do. I had nothing to do with that. It happened, but you didn't do it." "Right. But now you know what I'm talking about." "I don't know, I guess, but I wasn't even here." "Why are your initials on the log?" "The tower guy called me, said a guy wanted to refuel a Quantum. I said, okay, if it was my brother. I didn't know that. And if his passenger was Hattie, I didn't know that either. I told you I wasn't here. I didn't put anybody on any plane." "But you've got one heck of a memory. You know all the details of the flight. You okayed the night you weren't here." "Prove it." "Prove what?" "Whatever you just said." Rayford shook his head. "You want me to prove you have a good memory?" "I don't know. You're making fun of me or something, and I don't get it." Rayford leaned forward and clapped Bo on the thigh. "Tell you something, Bo," he said. "I'm a businessman, too. What if I were to tell you I don't have a problem with Hattie flying off to Europe or even pretending to be dead?" Bo shrugged. "Okay. She's a grown woman, has her own money, makes her own decisions. She doesn't report to me. I mean, I care about her. She's not really well. isn't making smart decisions these days, but that's her right, isn't it? Bo nodded solemnly. But see, I need to find her. Can't help you. Don't be too sure. I need to talk to her, give her some news she has to hear in person. Now, what am I going to do, Bo? How am I going to find her? I don't know. I told you. You told me you were a businessman who did all right. How much of a businessman are you, Bo? This much of one? Rayford bent and unzipped his bag. Bo leaned and peered into it. He looked up at Rayford, then at T. Go ahead, Rayford said. Grab a bundle. They're real. Go on. Bo grabbed a wrapped stack of 20s and pressed his thumb against the end, letting the bills flip in succession. You like? Rayford said. Of course I like. How much you got? See for yourself. Bo bent to the bag in earnest and opened it wide. I could use some of this. Badly enough to tell me what I need to know? He still had his nose in the bag. Nothing like the smell of cash. What do you need to know? I want to fly to Europe tomorrow and find Hattie Durham alive and well within an hour after I hit the ground. Know anybody who can help me with that? Maybe. Rayford grabbed two handfuls of bundles from the bag and began setting them on the desk one by one. When three bundles were laid out, he said, Would that buy me some info? A little. Like what? France? City? More. Rayford said another bundle. Coast. You drive a hard bargain. North or south? Yes. With every question, Rayford added cash. Finally, he narrowed it to a city on the English Channel, Le Havre. You got a lot of money sitting there, Rayford said, but every bill goes back into the bag without an exact address. Who she's with, and what might otherwise surprise me. You write it down. I leave this money with T. Hey, you're Welshin. And when I find her, I tell him and you get the dough. But you got to write it down. It's already written down, Bo said, and he produced it from his wallet. Everything Rayford needed was on hand, printed in tiny letters. You'll keep me out of this, right? That I promise, Rayford said. Now, there is a matter of silence. Silence? You haven't proven good at it, have you? Guess not. I'm not good at it either. You said you'd keep me out of this. I assume you meant to not tell whoever is with Hattie or Hattie herself. That is what I meant. But my complete silence can be bought. Silence from who? The GC, of course. Defrauding an insurance company by a fake death, or even causing rescue workers to search under false pretenses, is an international Class X felony under global community law. It is punishable by life imprisonment. As a citizen, I am bound to report any knowledge of a felony. I'll deny it. I have a witness. He nodded to T, who was staring down at the desk. You taking his side, Delanty? You're scum, T said. This is between you and. Forget it, Bo said. I'll take my chances. This is extra blackmail, Bo Rayford said. Can you reach that phone? You better call and report this extortion and be sure to tell them what it is I'm blackmailing you over. You know, the felony. Bo snorted and folded his arms. Oh, are you through with the phone? Rayford said. I need to report a crime. You wouldn't dare. You're hiding out yourself. They they accept anonymous reports, don't they, T? T did not respond. Let's find out. Rayford lifted the receiver and began to push buttons. All right, hang it up. Are we businessmen again, Bo? Ready to negotiate? Yes. How about I make it easy on you? How about I not let it cost you a penny you don't have yet? How's that? Bo shrugged. For instance, you don't have this yet. Rayford swept the bundles of cash off the desk and into the bag in one motion. All right, fine. I'll just tell whoever I need to. You'll never find Hattie Durham. Now, you see, Bo, I had considered that. It's just a little short sighted. I'm holding the cards now. If Hattie's gone for any reason, you're an international fugitive. Believe me, I've been there, and you don't want that. Rayford thrust out his hand. Nice doing business with you, Bo. And Beauregard Hanson, intelligent that he was, shook Rayford's hand. Hey, he said, yank it away. It wasn't nice doing business with you, you stupid guy. Bo slammed the door, marched down the stairs, slammed the tower door, slammed his car door, threw dirt and gravel as he spun out of the parking lot, raced out the gate, and ran out of gas. Rayford watched from above as he tried to flag down a ride. Jakov pulled to the curb at Ben Gurion and leaped from the Mercedes. Greg, he exulted, bear hugging Buck. As soon as they were in the car, he said, How are you, my brother? Worried about Chaim and eager to check in on all of you. Hannah Lord told you about Jonas? Buck nodded. What happened? Well, tell me, have you seen the horsemen? No. Believe me, you don't want to. Frightful things. They were rampaging through our neighborhood while Jonas was in the security booth. You know it, sure. A house burned across the street, and a man driving past was overcome by smoke. He passed out, and the car struck the booth. Chaim was most distressed. He did not believe we could see the creatures. He still thinks we are lying, but he laments Jonas's death. He says over and over, I thought he was one of you. I thought he would be protected. And he has now gone from being very close, studying Dr. Ben Judah's messages every day, to crying out at all times of the day and night. It's not true, any of it, is it? It's lies, all lies. And Buck, he has done something strange. We know he is old and eccentric, yet he is still brilliant. But he has purchased a wheelchair, motorized, very expensive. Does he need it? No, he has recovered from the locust sting. He fears the current plagues like a man possessed, sitting by the window watching for the vapors. Will not go out, spends a lot of time in his workshop. You remember it. Buck nodded. But the chair. He rides around the house in it, and when he gets bored on one floor, he calls me and a valet, and we must carry it to another floor for him. Most heavy. What's it all about? It is if he is practicing with it, Buck. He was not good at first, always bumping things, could not back up, could not turn around, would get into impossible positions, then get angry, and finally call us to help him pull it free. But he has become proficient at it. He never has to back up and start over. He can go through narrow places, turn around in a confined place. Quite remarkable. He is accomplished on every floor. He entertains himself, I think. What's he doing in the shop, Jakov? No one knows. He locks himself in there for hours at a time, and we hear filing, filing, filing. Metal? Yes, and we see the tiny shavings, but we never see what he has filed. He has never been good with his hands. He is a brilliant man, creative, but not one who spent time working with his hands. He still reads botany and writes for the technical journals, and he is studying biblical history. Buck shot Jacob a double take as they pulled onto James Street. You're not serious. He is. He compares text against the Bible and against what Tyson teaches. He and Tyson have corresponded. I know. That's why I'm here. Tyson is very concerned for him, believes he is close. I thought he was too, Buck. We believers surrounded him after you left. But then he watches the news and finds himself so disappointed in Carpathia. He feels betrayed, feels Israel has been betrayed. He cannot get through to Nikolai, is always stopped short by his commander, Fortunato. Yes, most troubling. You will be alarmed at how he has aged, Buck, but it will lift his spirits to see you. Anything else? Not that I could think of. Wait, yes, do not mention strokes. Strokes? You know, when the body. I know what a stroke is, Jacob. Why would I ever mention such a thing? He seems to have become obsessed with the subject of strokes. Buck, let the statement hang in the air. Whatever for? He is beyond us, Buck. We have given up understanding him. A distant relative has had a stroke, and he has seen pictures of the man. A pitiful change. He must fear that for himself. That is not like him, you know. The global community palace complex had become depressing. About 15% of the employees had been killed by smoke, fire, or sulfur. Carpathia publicly blamed Tyson Ben Judah. Newscasts carried sound bites of the potent averring. The man tried to kill me before thousands of witnesses at Teddy Kollek Stadium in Jerusalem more than a year ago. He is in a league with the elderly radicals who spew their hatred from the Wailing Wall and boast that they have poisoned the drinking water. Is it too much of a stretch to believe that this cult would perpetrate germ warfare on the rest of the world? They themselves clearly have developed some antidote, because you do not hear of one of them falling victim. Rather, they have concocted a myth no thinking man or woman could be expected to swallow. They would have us believe that our loved ones and friends are being killed by roving bands of giant horsemen riding half horses, half lions, which breathe fire like dragons. Of course, the believers, the saints, the holier than thous, can see these monstrous beasts. It is we, the uninitiated in truth, the uninoculated, who are blind and vulnerable. The Ben Judahites cannot persuade us with their exclusivistic, intolerant, hateful diatribes, so they choose to kill us. David's own department was slowly being decimated. Survivors scared to be outdoors and yet no less vulnerable indoors, worked double shifts and still walked around in terror. Whatever joy David and Annie might have had in the first love stage of their relationship was dampened by the travel of so many. Those who knew them, who might have been excited for them and encouraged them, now considered personal relationships trivial. And as much as David and Annie loved each other, they couldn't argue that point. People were dying and going to hell. David was so saddened that he seriously considered escaping the palace with Annie and going somewhere where they could help evangelize people before it was too late. Annie helped him realize anew the unique position he was in. They sat in his office one night, hunched over his computer, holding hands. A simple Y clip allowed them both to listen in a conversation between Leon and Peter II in Peter's office at the Faith Palace. Carpathia's day is past, Leon. Now you must stop reacting that way every time I use other than those ridiculous titles you two have thrust upon each other. But you insist on being called. I have earned my title, Leon. I am a man of God. I head the largest church in history. Millions around the world pay homage to my spiritual leadership. How long before they demand that I lead them politically as well? The religious Jews and the fundamentalist Christians are the only factions who have not brought themselves into step with Enigma of Babylon faith. Factions, Pontiff? We estimate that 1 billion people access Ben Judah's website every day. That means nothing. I am one of them. How many of those are devotees? I certainly am not. Yet I have to keep tabs on their nonsense. I have been patient with them, allowed them their uniqueness, and in the name of tolerance, but that day is closing. I have begged Carpathia to make it illegal to practice religion outside the one world faith. Soon I will step up the punishment for the same and dare him to do something about it. Does he really want to go on record as countering the most beloved religious figure of all time? My people expect no less of me than to take swift, definite action against intolerancy, but you believe Carpathia himself is deity. Yes, I do. Worthy of worship. I do, Pontifex. Why then is such a good man impotent in the face of the two preachers? They have made him a laughing stock. But he negotiated with them and gave away the store. He said himself he has upheld his end of the bargain, refusing to persecute believers if the two so called witnesses would let the Israelis drink water instead of blood. Well, they may be drinking pure water, but they are also choking to death in droves. Who's been made the fool, Leon? No answer. You can't say it, can you, Leon? You can't admit your godlike boss is incapable of doing the right thing. You yourself would not stand for such insolence from your subjects. Rest assured, whoever those two codgers are, wherever they're from, and whatever magical powers they tap into, they are not above the law. They are subject to the global community. And if Leon Fortunato were potent, that problem would have been taken care of long before now. Am I right, huh, Leon? You'd do what I would do, wouldn't you? You'd have those two eliminated. No response. Once I do that, Leon, you'll want to stay close. Hear me? Stay close. If I am beloved now, if revered, if deferred to, imagine my subjects when I rid them of these plague mongers. Admit it, Leon. Nikolai is biding his time, isn't he? Waiting them out. Now there's courage. There's diplomacy. There's impotence. Defend him, Leon. You can't, can you? You can't. I must hurry to another appointment, Pontifex, but I must say that when I hear you speak so decisively, I do yearn for a return to that kind of leadership. There are regional potentates who agree with you, Leon, Matthews said. Well, if I may be perfectly frank, Pontifex, a man in my position would have to be deaf and blind to not see how the potentates to a man venerate you. Neither am I blind to their respect, Leon. I appreciate knowing you recognize it as well. I should like to think they would welcome my leadership in areas other than just spiritual. And that is the end of chapter 13. And next I'll be reading chapter 14. Thank you for joining me and have a wonderful day.